game. Blouses.
Gallon chuck.
Disaster.
Spaghetti.
Disaster.
Well, I mean, I'm no doctor.
We now join America's most popular show, already in progress. Everybody loves
Mitch and Sean. You guys are the greatest duo.
Fantastic.
That team sure did suck last night. They just plain sucked. I've seen teams suck before, but they were the suckiest bunch of sucks that ever sucked.
I already did that to you.
I counted you down.
I know, but I counted you down like 5 seconds ago. You're not even paying attention to me.
I'm looking at my beer.
Fine, we'll awkwardly come into the Post-Game Pints podcast. Hey, this is what, an emergency meeting? We decided to throw this one in last minute. We said, hey, we got to do this because it's the latest news that came from the Montreal Canadiens with the firing of Claude Julien and Kirk Muller. So we wanted to jump on top of this right away. And Mitch, we've been kind of talking about it all day, but not with each other. So I want to take advantage of that here on the Post-Game Pints podcast, brought to you by LaBrosse Brewery. Check them out, labrosse.com, and LaBrosse in Point Claire 133. They've got everything. I got to make another trip soon. Looking forward to that. And I know that they've just released a whole bunch more in their lab series. They just celebrated their 4th birthday. Happy birthday. Once again, go check it out. Still, you can go get your Campbell Play-by-Play IPA, your Angry Gallo Ale. And they are proud partners and title sponsor of the Post-Game Pints podcast. But Mitch, we got to dive right into this. Claude Julien was fired by the Montreal Canadiens almost 4 years after he was hired. First question, was this the right move?
Well, I'll start off by saying yes, it's the right move. Anytime something like this happens, everybody is surprised when they see the news. I'm not going to say anybody was shocked when they saw the news this time around, but you still, you get the prompt on your phone or somebody informs you as to what's happened, and it's like, oh, shit, they went ahead and did it.
Yeah.
So the question, though, is it the right move? Obviously, yes. Unfortunately, Sean, Claude Julien in 4 years in Montreal has had very limited success. And I'd actually say no success at all. You can look at what happened last year with the bubble and beating the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's why I said limited success, but if things were normal and the circumstances are what they should have been, the Canadiens would have been well out of a playoff spot. Fact of the matter is, Claude Julien hasn't had much success in the NHL in about 6 years. The Canadian special teams numbers were terrible. They looked out of sync. They didn't look organized. They didn't look like they were playing with any structure. And we heard too many comments from players talking about negative energy, playing in their own heads, playing not to lose, thinking too much out on the ice. There was just too much, Sean, I think, built up for the Montreal Canadiens not to make this move. I think if you look at the path and the trajectory and how they've been playing as of late, the move had to be made. So it is the right move because I think they are a lot better on paper compared to what they've done so far this year.
So the right move is kind of, if it's status quo with the direction that they're going, even under a new coach, maybe it's not the right move. But it does seem that it's just started looking like a lot like last year. And, you want consistency in your coach, but you don't want consistency in the problems. You want a coach that can fix those problems with adaptation, and the general manager can go and get new players, can make some moves and bring in, and everybody seems to be A-okay with all the changes with the roster. But then the Canadians started looking like a team that couldn't win at home, that hasn't been good on the power play from day one. And I think that has a lot to do with Kirk Muller going. And he's kind of tied in there with Claude Julien and losing to teams they shouldn't lose to. And that's what happened. And when a general manager or an owner or a president of hockey operations, and I know in this instance, the general manager with the Canadiens, Marc Bergevin, is looking at Claude Julien, he sees the same problems. He's like, I have to make a move. And I don't want to feel like his back was up against the wall. He could have stayed the course, said these guys are going to get out of it. But I think he was right when he talked about a new voice and a new message, even though he wants them to go back to play the way that they did in the first 10 games with speed and attack and be on their toes. He kind of wants the same hockey he saw with Claude Julien. He just feels like the message isn't getting through anymore. And we've seen it time and time again. Coaches, their lives, I mean, once you hit 3 years, it's really hard to stay longer than that. Yes, there are coaches that pass that, but it's not often. Most coaches are gone after 3 because the message gets stale.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's the message getting stale or the players,
messenger.
Yeah, exactly. The messenger getting a little bit stale. And Sean, you mentioned losing to teams that they shouldn't be losing to. It's 3 out of 4 games that they dropped to the Ottawa Senators. I realize they pick up a couple points along the way, which
doesn't matter.
Mitigate things. No, it's a loss. It's an L.
And it wouldn't have mattered if, like, let's just say they won the shootout or something like that. It wouldn't have mattered because they just got the win. And I think that even a shootout win would have changed the plight of Julien, but I think it would have changed the way that the locker room felt.
Yeah, maybe, but where I think we might look back as a big time turning point. Let's say the coaching change doesn't work, and I think it's probably going to work, at least in the short term. I think they're going to get a little bit of a boost of energy from this change. But let's say it doesn't work. I think we're going to look back to Brendan Gallagher scoring against the Maple Leafs 2 weeks ago. The game winner, obviously Toffoli scoring before that. But the Canadians are trailing in that game. They look like they don't have a lot of life. What were the hits in that game? It was like 40-1 at one point.
Yeah.
Toronto's just dominating them. Montreal comes from behind, finds a way to win. I think that if the Canadians don't win that game, Marc Bergevin probably makes a change at that time, and that allows Dominique Ducharme to come in as the fresh voice with a week of practice and time to tinker and change things up. I think So what
do you think of the timing then? So let's just jump. What do you think of the timing? The fact that he did wait another week because they did win that game, and then he waited 3 more games. Do you think that's a big deal that now that Ducharme really doesn't have that practice time, he might get 2 full day practices the rest of the way, maybe 3?
Yeah. Well, what I tell you to that is better late than never.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think they probably should have done it after the Toronto game. They wait 3 more. They could have waited even another 3 games, and then it would have been even worse, and the things would have compounded further. So we know he's patient, and he wanted to give every chance to Claude Julien and Kirk Muller to figure things out. They weren't able to. I understand the logic behind it. I think you're just putting hurdles in Dominique Ducharme's path to success a little bit here. Not that he can't overcome it, and not that the new voice can't help fix things. But I just think it might have been a bit of an easier path for Dominique Ducharme had they made that change earlier.
All right, so I'm okay with the timing too, by the way, and I'm the same way. I think it was about time. I remember when Julien came in, it was right around a bye week too with Terrien in 2017, and it was Valentine's Day, was it? That in mid-February when they fired Terrien?
It was that weekend, yeah.
Yeah, it was that weekend. And I remember we were talking about it on the post-game show, and I was like, I don't see them doing it. But we discussed it, and I was like, I don't see them doing it. And I never had that feeling this time. I was like, I can see them doing it. And I was pretty sure it was going to be Muller and Julien gone and Ducharme. I didn't know they were going to bring up Alex Burrows. That's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic's going to work. But
Yeah.
what can Dominique Ducharme do now with the Canadians? Here on the Post Game Pints podcast, Sean Campbell, Mitch Gallo, brought to you by LaBrosse Brewery. What can Dominique Ducharme do now?
Well, first of all, going back to that time with Julien coming in and replacing Terrien, I think that at that moment, the Canadians, if memory serves me well, were in first place.
Mm-hmm.
They were certainly well in a playoff spot, and things were trending in the wrong direction for sure, but things didn't seem to be completely off track at that time. So that's why it's like, oh, maybe, but I don't think they're going to do it. This time around, I'm with you. It had a completely different feeling. And I think that's why a lot of people were talking about it, and it was legitimate to talk about it. And I think a lot of it is just based on the expectations on this team going into the season. They were expected to be a team that was going to be at the top of their division, 1 or 2, and then make some noise in the playoffs. So the change was made because the path didn't seem like it was leading to where they thought they should be. Now, what can Dominique Ducharme do, Sean, is what you're asking right now? I think he can do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, he can alleviate that negative energy that we were talking about earlier. He could be a more positive voice. He's a younger guy. I think he could relate a little bit easier to the youngsters on the team. Kotkaniemi, Suzuki, Romanov, even some of the not so like guys in between. Drouin, who he coached obviously with how maybe to know. Hey man, even Tatar, I think has had a bit of a rocky road here with Claude Julien. Like I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a couple big performances from Thomas Tatar. With
good hockey
that
player.
Well, he's a good hockey player. Now he's going to have a weight lifted right off of his back. So I think there's something to be said about that. I also think, Sean, just go back to last year in the bubble when Claude Julien left. Kirk Muller, in a very short amount of time, coached in a very, very different way than Claude Julien as far as mixing up the lines, changing things up, in-game adjustments.
In-game adjustments. I know you've been using that word a lot, in-game adjustments. And that's one of the things I'm curious what's going to happen with Ducharme, because I think he's going to be able to play a little. I think he can play tomorrow in practice, and this is the day, we're recording this podcast on the day that he got let go, Julien, so it would be his first practice. But his first practice, I think he can play. First game he can play. After a period, he could change it up. I think he could just, take it as a toy and just really feel it out on his own and say, hey, I'm gonna jostle around with the line and the lineup and maybe do things just a little bit differently, guys. It's just gonna have a different vibe, and you're gonna feel it. But every time you hit that ice, you got to perform. So I'm thinking that's one of the things that he's going to be really good at.
Yeah, and I also can't help but think about the communication that he's going to have with some of the players, especially the veteran guys on the team. It's like, you go to Brendan, like this is how I would look at it, and I'm going to think Dominique Ducharme is going to look at it, but I would go to Brendan Gallagher. I'd be like, okay, how do you feel about Dano? How do you feel about playing with him? How it's going with you guys right now? I know you guys have had a lot of success. What do you think about playing with Kotkaniemi? What do you think about playing with this guy? How do you feel about this and that? And I do the same with Weber. What do you think about Sherrod? I'm thinking about giving a little bit more time to Romanov. Maybe giving you more of a guy that can move the puck with both his legs and his passing ability and split you and Sherrod up. How do you feel about these things? And I think you could open up a nice dialogue, especially with guys who have been around for a long time. The other thing, Sean, I think that Ducharme, from what I know of him, is going to implement a more aggressive style. He's going to be more aggressive, whereas Claude was more passive. Let's let the game come to us. We're going to counterattack. We're going to score off the rush. Or I think with Ducharme, and this might take a little bit of time for him to completely implement this, but it's going to be go, 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 go. And I think that's going to be a big mandate from this coach.
Well, I think the Canadians were go, go, go. And then when things got out right, it was like, shut her down. And Marc Bergevin alluded to that when talking about the Canadians. He goes, look, I just feel like we're a fast team. And over the last few games, we became a slow team. and we weren't playing fast, and we want to be aggressive. And Mitch, I say that on our post games all the time is, hey, when the game's slow, the Canadiens, I don't feel good about their game. When the game's fast, yes, they're giving up chances, but at the same time, I feel better about the Canadiens in those situations. The one thing, though, let's be honest.
Well, Sean, to me, it's about acting instead of reacting, and I think as of late they've been reacting. That's all.
Yeah, and then when you react, you're late to a puck. You react to something when you can't jump on it. But the one thing, I mean, it's going to be the right choice, and everyone's going to love Dominique Ducharme if Carey Price just starts playing better. I mean, if he just starts playing great, then next thing you know, hey, wow, Ducharme has the magic touch, and I think that's a big thing for the Canadiens right now. If they just get steady play from their number one goaltender.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to discount that. At the same time, I'll say that the Sunday loss, Jake Allen was in goal, and the loss on Tuesday, we're going to look at the two bad goals that he led up to Brandstrom and Tkachuk, and I'm not going to apologize for them. They're really bad goals, but I think if you look at the 60 minutes of play, the work in that game, if you're to put another goalie between the pipes, probably the score ends up the same, if not more lopsided, because of how many insane saves he made. The two goals were bad, but it's like if you make 5 highlight reel saves on goals that should go in, but you let in 2 softies, I kind of see the difference as 3, right? So there's 3 that you've saved, even though I don't want to apologize, but I get your point. You know, if he's locking it down and shutting down everything, you're going to win more games than you lose. And if he stops those 2 shots on top of all the highlight reel saves, Dominique Ducharme is going to look like a genius. So I don't want to discount it. And I think Carey Price can be better. But I think watching the team, anybody who's watched the Canadiens, Sean, knows that the issues go far beyond the goaltending. And it's on the structure and the way they were playing and how disorganized and out of sync that they looked on the ice.
Yeah. By the way, there's a couple more things I want to get to. I also, Mitch, because you and I we know Dominique Ducharme just a little bit from our time being on the bus with the juniors. I thought maybe we could tell a story about the juniors with Dominique Ducharme and kind of give a different perspective that we know. Or maybe if you have a Claude Julien story now that he's gone with the Canadiens, we could do that just at the end of the show. But quickly, just a couple more things here on the Post Game Pints podcast. Campbell and Gallo, also brought to you by woofpacks.ca.
Woof, woof. Woof, woof.
WOOFPACKS.ca. Check them out. Woofpacks.ca. I know that Vader's excited. I know that Freddie with Dave is super excited for the packages that are coming their way. You go check out these packages. You subscribe. You get a package a month. It's a surprise. It's a surprise, not for you, for your dog. So all you dog lovers out there watching the Post Game Pints podcast, go support woofpacks.ca. Support local. We support them. They support us. You support them. That's the way that we roll. Woofpacks.ca.
Woof, woof. Woof, woof. So,
all right.
.ca.
So just a couple of things before we get to maybe a couple of stories, Mitch. Do you think Claude Julien is going to get another job in the NHL?
As a head coach?
Yeah. Well, I don't think he'll take as an assistant. I think he might be an assistant for Team Canada. That's a strong possibility at the Olympics.
I'd be surprised if he was on the Canadian Olympic staff, even as an assistant. And
I won't be. I think he's a candidate for head coach now.
I don't think so, personally, and I don't see him being up for another head coaching job anytime soon. I think if we look at his track record, Sean, it's been a long time since he's had success in the NHL, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And I think if we look at a lot of the guys that were from his era of coaching, they're starting to not get jobs anymore. And we're starting to see younger coaches or coaches who have had success in the recent future. Nice. What do you got? Another Campbell? Coaches.
It was one of those days, my friend. It was one of those.
I hear you. But, with Ducharme and Jeremy Colleton and Sheldon Keefe and a bunch of the other coaches who have come in even John Cooper, Sean, was pretty young when he came in to the Tampa Bay Lightning. DJ Smith's a young guy. I think we're seeing an influx now of younger coaches with different philosophies, whereas the older school coaches are not getting jobs anymore. We're not seeing the recycled coach as much. Is it possible that there's going to be a team that wants a veteran guy behind the bench? Yeah, it's possible. I just think that there's other options that I would personally be more inclined to hire than Claude Julien, just because it's been a long time since he's coached a good team.
Stanley Cup champion coaches are Stanley Cup champion coaches, and I think that still holds water in today's NHL when you know what it takes to win. And I know sometimes it's what it takes to win 10 years ago. And I think that's something that we could get in that conversation with Mike Babcock, as he's maybe looking for another job. And I know that's maybe a name that you would turn to first before Claude Julien, but I think he's going to be a head coach again. I think he will. I don't think he'll be an assistant. I think that he'll be considered for Team Canada. I think that there will be a team that will look for him. I mean, it was just 4 years ago when he was let go of the Bruins, the Canadiens jump on the opportunity. I think there's other general managers that look at him in high regard. I know that there are young coaches that need opportunities. Absolutely. I'm with you. And I love the change of the guard. I like the idea that the Canadiens are going with Dominique Ducharme, a guy that's never coached before, but has been in the ranks. They didn't just bring him up from the AHL or the Q. He's been in the NHL. He knows the players. I think that it's a good transition. And give him the interim, because if it's a disaster, then you can change your mind. If it's something that works, he's the front runner right now for next year. There's no doubt the way that Marc Bergevin spoke, he's the front runner to be the coach next year, but I still think he has to perform to a certain level. But I'm going to be on the other side of this. I think Claude's going to get a job. I'm just going to say that. Lastly, before we get into story time, and story time will be brought to you by Cunningham's Pub, because we don't have a pop quiz today, but we'll bring story time to Cunningham's Pub. For Marc Bergevin, is this his last move? Does he have anything else? Because if this move doesn't work out, he's got a year left on his deal. Is he done? Is this Marc Bergevin's last little straw as general manager?
So you're asking with the hypothetical that it doesn't work?
Because if it works, they're not like, if the Canadiens go and have success, and the general manager is fine. He made the moves. He made this, and if this move works, there's no answer here. My point is, 9 years in, third coach, doesn't make the playoffs in a 7-team league after all those changes. Do you think that Jeff Molson would think about it?
I think that there's a lot of pressure on everybody here. And if they were to miss the playoffs, I think his job would definitely be in jeopardy. I'd be surprised if they brought him back if they missed the playoffs completely. For sure. I think that a lot is riding, unfortunately, for Bergevin and a lot of young players like Suzuki, Kotkaniemi, and Romanov. Mm-hmm. I even think if they don't get out of the first round, there could be some pressure there for Marc Bergevin. Jeff Molson has been so patient, and he's shown a lot of faith in the Canadiens general manager. But I don't know about you, Sean. I'd be very surprised if they could have another unsuccessful year with the amount of money that they spent. Like Marc Bergevin, Sean, in free agency and trades this year, he spent more than any other general manager if you don't include entry-level deals. He spent $102 million of Jeff Molson's money. Now, Jeff Molson, he might be patient, but he's also a businessman. And if he sees that he's shelling out $102 million, and of course I'm talking over the totality of the contracts, not just this year. But if he sees $102 million has been committed and he's not seeing any returns on his dividends, then I'd be very surprised if Jeff Molson was okay with that.
See, I think he's going to, not that he's going to be okay, but I think he is, because think about it this way. A new general manager comes in with this roster, the way it's built. What can he do? I mean, he could trade away some guys, but most of these guys are locked in. They've signed it. The major free agent moves, they're up against the cap. I mean, a new general manager coming into this in this off season, I mean, it's still Marc Bergevin's team this year and next year. And plus, even after this off season, everybody felt, the Canadiens are heading the direction, but they're not there just yet. Now, maybe it's the next general manager will get them there. but I still think that there's a little bit move to maneuver, and it's Mark Bergevin's plan. I think he might let him finish it off, the plan, even if it doesn't go as well as he thought because of this derailment. But anyways, we'll see. I think that you mentioned it. Jeff Molson's a patient guy. I think he's very patient with Mark Bergevin, and I know
Sean, it's hypothetical, right?
Yes,
We're saying if they don't make the playoffs, if they get bounced, yeah. So I fully expect them to make the playoffs and be very competitive in the playoffs as well. So I think his job long term is fine, but if it doesn't go well, there's a reason he made the move this quickly, Sean, with firing Julien.
All right, so with no pop quiz, and by the way, I encourage you to check out our Facebook page for your chance to win a gift certificate to Cunningham's Pub. Cunningham's Pub, the best wings in the world in St. Anna Bellevue. Just at the end of the island. I mean, check them out. Check out Cunningham's Pub on their Facebook page. Check them out on their website. They have the best wings on the planet. Not in Canada, not in Montreal, not in the province, not in North America, on the planet. And I know that you just got to try them. I'm telling you, try them once, and then you're going to be hooked for life. So proud to have them on board here on the Post Game Pints podcast, Campbell and Gallo. Mitch, just to wrap things up here with all this coach talk, you and I, we met Dominique Ducharme as he was an assistant coach with the Montreal Juniors. We rode the buses a whole lot. Valdor, Rowan Aranda, Chicoutimi, Rimouski, Pascal Vincent was the head coach. Joel Bouchard was one of the assistants too. He wasn't on the bus all the time, but sometimes he was on the bus. We got to know Dominic a little bit. I will say this, both Claude Julien and Dominique Ducharme are very polite people. I know that that's something you were tweeting about this today. Were you not tweeting? I thought you tweeted. Maybe it was a text that you sent me about.
Well, a text is private and a tweet is public. So tread water here, Sean.
No, it was about a coach being nice to the media and polite is a good coach, but a rude coach is a bad coach.
Yeah, that was a text, but I don't mind you sharing it.
Okay, sorry.
It wasn't a tweet. Yeah.
No, my point is, Claude, I filled in for Dan a whole bunch of times. So I get on the road and I get in those scrums and I had one-on-one. He was always, oh, you're filling in for Dan. Hey, how you doing? Like he was very, open, very much. You covered a lot of Mark Trespin press conferences, right? I remember Mark Trespin would go around and, hi, what's your name? What's your name? He would try and say hi to everybody. Claude he'd see a new face and he'd wonder like, why are you here? Who is that? And he'd get this, not just that you're just some, anybody. And it's the same thing with Dominique Ducharme. I got on the plane a couple times and I know him from the juniors and he would look over. He's like, hey, and I hadn't seen him for like 6-7 years. He's like, hey, what's up? How you doing? And there was only a couple people on the plane. When I fill in for Dan, I go sit in my spot, and eat my food and I don't move, talk to Sergio. That's it. But there's a couple people that I would actually say hi and you'd wait for your bags while you wait. And Dominic would come up. He's like, hey, how you doing? Everything good? You enjoying the flight? And Dominic was always polite that way. And I know that back on the junior days, we had a couple stories that we always, I don't know which one you want to bring up, if you have one in particular.
I have two that come to mind. I don't know which one you want me to share.
I don't know. Ours might be different too. So go ahead.
I can tell. I don't know how much time is left here, but I can tell both of them. Sean, maybe you could tell one in between, since I have two stories. One I'm a little bit reluctant to tell, but I'll tell it anyways because I don't care. I've had a couple beers, so I'm feeling good.
Cheers.
We were driving on the bus with the Montreal Juniors. You and I, you're on this trip, and Farrell Miller, who owned the Montreal Juniors, was too cheap to have us stay an extra night, so we had to drive on a game day from Montreal to Rouyn-Noranda. So we're gonna drive on game hours. Day. 6+ hours. Yeah,
we were leaving at like 7 a.m.
Yeah, so we're gonna drive to Rouyn-Noranda. The players we're going to play, we're going to call the game, you and I, and then we're going to stay in Rouyn-Noranda, go to Val-d'Or, play in Val-d'Or, and come back to Montreal. A crazy idea for the owner of the team to be so cheap on the extra night of hotel. Anyways, we stopped for lunch, and we have a nice lunch. I had some soup. Nice time. I love me some good soup, and the team treated us well. We always got to eat with the team, sit with the players and the coaching staff, and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
you and I would usually do our own thing, but we had fun talking with those guys. They spent so much time with us on the bus and everything like that. And we pull out of this place where we're having our meal, and we're back on the bus. And the bus must have. And Sean, I've been hit in the head a couple times in my life, so if details are foggy and you can add anything to the story, you let me know. And if I get anything wrong, also let me know, because you were there too.
Yeah.
But the bus could not have been gone for more than 5 minutes. We're not back on the highway from the restaurant that we're at, and it skids into a ditch. And we're stuck. Like the bus driver is trying to back out, and you got the wheels just hitting the ice and not going anywhere. Like,
and so like he tells everybody, he's like, okay, you're too heavy. You all have to get off the bus. And then so we all get off the bus, and the players have to try and push the bus because they're physical. And then we're like, well, we're not players. We're not pushing the bus. So the coaches, the players are pushing. And here's Mitch Gallo taking his phone and just going, clip, clip, clip. Just taking pictures of the guys because we're just laughing. We're like, what the hell is this?
I also want to stick it to Farrell Miller.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
The snowbank was big. The snowbank was big that they were stuck in. And you know what? Good teamwork. Good job, Pascal Vincent. They did, after 5-10 minutes, get the bus out. Maybe 20.
No, around that. So I just snap the photos and I throw them up on my Twitter. And
Facebook. I think it was your Facebook.
I don't remember. I don't remember
Twitter or Facebook.
Yeah, I honestly didn't think too much of it at the time.
Yeah.
We
were
just did it.
little derailment. Yeah, I remember. And we're in the middle of nowhere where there's like no feed or anything, but you're able to get it up there.
Yeah, so I get it up there, and we were driving, and seriously, man, it was not a long time.
Yeah.
Although
hold on. But before it gets this, because because then this is what happened. RDS is Stéphane Leroux. You after you post it, you got a friend request on Facebook from Stéphane Leroux. Did you not?
Yes, I did.
And then you accepted it, and then he stole your picture.
He stole the picture from my Facebook page, and he throws it up on the main page at rds.ca. I don't know this though. I don't know any of this until so there's like 4 rows of coaches, and then you and I, and then all the players are sitting behind us. And Dominique Ducharme at that time was doing a lot of video work. Yeah. So he was always on the computer on the bus looking at tape for Pascal Vincent, stuff like that. And I just see we're sitting there, and he just turns around and looks at me.
Well, first, hold on.
What?
You can see something opens up with the coaches, okay? So they're kind of murmuring, and then you see Dominic go to Pascal, and he brings his computer, and I was on the aisle. You were you were on the window, and he brings it across, and I see your picture, and he's showing to Pascal. I'm like, Mitch, you're in trouble. And that's why I always say it was Dominic, because Dominic was the one that turned around and showed you, he's like, Mitch, did you send them this picture? And, in his broken English at the time, because he wasn't the strongest in English. And then you were like, because how old were you at the time?
Oh, early 20s.
You were like, holy shit, fuck.
I messed up.
This is no good. And then we laughed. And then even Pascal was just like, yeah, you probably shouldn't. But he was like,
honestly, pretty much the coaching staff was like, you probably shouldn't have done that, but fuck Farrell Miller.
I remember after the game, which they got smoked that night.
It was I think a 5-1 game against Rainer.
I was gonna say 6-0, but they got smoked.
Yeah, it might have been 6-0, 5-1, something like that. But Rainer Randa, as far as context is concerned, they had won like 6 games that year.
Yeah,
they were awful.
Yeah, they got smoked that night, and I just remember having a couple beers at the bar because during the week too. After we kind of had a couple beers, was like, don't worry about it. And then, but Pascal wasn't there, and then Pascal came down, and he's like, I just got off the phone with Farrell. That was a 4-hour conversation.
Well, fuck, it was his fault.
Yeah. All right, we got to save the other stories for another time because that's it for us, man. But Mitch, that was the only story I wanted to tell. That was the story because it was the same story I had. And it was all because of you taking that picture.
I just remember the deadpan of his like body not moving, but his head slowly.
Because the best part on the thing it said RDS.ca image power Mitch Gallo.
Yeah, courtesy Mitch Gallo. Like thanks Stefan Leroux.
And you have the players pushing the bus out of the ditch. So good.
Poor Louis LeBlanc.
So cheers, Dominic. Good luck as head coach of the Montreal Canadiens. Back to your day to the Montreal Juniors and Alex Burrows and Claude Julien. I think you're going to get another job. Maybe Mitch doesn't, but I do. That's our emergency coaches meeting here on the Post Game Pints podcast, brought to you by LaBrosse. Shout out to wolfpacks.ca and
woof 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 woof.
Cheers.
Well, how's that for your entertainment value?
They've done their job very, very well.
Awesome!
No.
Come on.
VBF.